on Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. I'm going to call the regular school board meeting to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are you ready for roll call, Colleen?
Yep. Aikman.
Here.
Husey.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kirsch.
Here.
Kissinger Wolf.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Rudai.
Here.
Baloo.
Here.
Zimmer.
Here.
Okay, all present and accounted for. I'm looking for, on item 5, adoption of the agenda as presented. Looking for a motion to approve the adoption of the agenda.
I so moved. Rudai.
Motion.
Second, Sherry Haveman.
Motion's been made by Rudai, seconded by Hafman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item 6 for public comment. We have 2 people signed up right now. Number 1 is John Merriman. If you would introduce yourself and...
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Marin, and I am the president of the Tomahawk Education Association. My comments tonight concern a section of the education budget proposal that was recently released by the Wisconsin State Legislature's Joint Finance Committee. In their proposal, they do not increase a school's revenue limit. As a result, you have organizations such as the Wisconsin Association of School Boards and the School Administrators Alliance issuing press releases voicing their concerns over this proposal. The Wisconsin Association of School Boards states, although lawmakers did increase general aids for school districts, doing so without a corresponding increase in revenue limits means that it is an increase for education in name only. Rather than districts being able to use those dollars for students, they will merely be changing the source of their funding. The School Administrators Alliance states, by committing these dollars to general state school aids with no corresponding increase in revenue limits, it becomes school funding in name only. The funding simply flows to taxpayers as property tax relief. Schools cannot spend one dime of it on the educational needs of their students. So, one of the reasons why the Tomahawk School District has had to go to a referendum for basic educational needs is the effect of revenue limits on the Tomahawk schools' finances. This issue is not unique to Tomahawk. It also applies to the majority of schools in the Northwoods. In my opinion, under the current budget proposal to not increase the revenue limits, even by inflation, the Joint Finance Committee is making a decision to not meet its obligation to adequately fund education throughout the state, and is rather continuing to push their responsibility onto local taxpayers' willingness and financial ability to approve local referendums. Referencing the same WASB press release as above, school districts are expected to make cuts when the state is facing a deficit. They should not also be expected to make cuts when the state has a significant surplus. I would ask that, if deemed appropriate, the school board contact our elected representatives to express any concerns that they may have about the current proposed education budget. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Or Jonathan. Okay. Bobby Foreman.
Thanks, Kay.
Yes.
I'm Bobby Vormans. I am a business owner in Tomahawk, in Oneida and Lincoln County, healthcare provider in the Tomahawk area. But most importantly, I'm the mom of 2 kids in the Tomahawk school system. So I could come back and talk a lot of public comment. I've had 5 patients die of COVID complications this year. I've had 6 patients die of suicide this year. Which of those lives are more important? So, which of those lives are more important? And I can't answer that. And if you can, you're better than me. So, however, I know it's been a struggle year for a lot of our kids in our community, and you guys know that just as much as I do. I can't talk about a lot of kids, but I can talk about my kids. And so I have a daughter who's a 7th grader now, an 8th grader with the Tomahawk School District. I had her medical records printed to give of each of you as she struggles with asthma. And so the amount of medication that she had to take this year is 2 times than any other year of her life. We did call in as parents and say, Alicia's staying home today because she has a cold or she has allergies, or you know what, her asthma is not bad because she had to run a mile in track with her mask on. However, I didn't bring her medical records because in general, my kids' medical health is not anyone's business but ours. My daughter Samantha, when she was an 8th grader in the Tomahawk School District, was told by a teacher in parent-teacher conferences that she's not dumb enough to need help or smart enough to graduate Tomahawk School District. That is a teacher in your school district that told us that in parent-teacher conferences. That's very disappointing to me, because in addition to that, I am an alumni of this school, an alumni that graduated 2nd in her class, that has given to this community and my businesses. I volunteer at the Tomahawk School District, at the St. Mary's School District, and I love to do it because you know what? I love the people that we surround ourselves with. And I've never been more disappointed or questioned this school district since this year. So my daughter was one that walked out for the protest, my 16-year-old. She struggles with anxiety, so she struggles with lots of things, and including not necessarily wanting to be in school. Ryan and the high school has been a great avenue for her, but she still struggles academically. So when she came home with the protest, we as parents sat her down and discussed with her that we supported her in her opinion, but she has to pay the consequences, and we discussed with her what that may look like. We also discussed with her ways to protest that are within the realm and, for better terms, politically correct. So she created a petition of over 900 signatures. And as I sat here 2 weeks ago and listened to Kay say the best way to get a hold of you is by email, she emailed them all to you. And I have them, a copy. She had asked that she just get a reply back saying that it was read and she was heard. She did not get a reply from anybody. So the way I teach my children is there's 2 sides to every story. And I'm hoping the side is that you didn't receive them. Because I would be disappointed in many of you that I know personally that she did not get a reply back from. So I have a copy of them for you, okay? And I would just expect more of our school district. I sit on boards similar to this. I'm a healthcare provider and I think a great community member to Tomahawk. But more importantly is I'm a proud alumni of the Hatchets. And I say that in every breath. And there's a lot of us that are here that are that too, right? My kids don't know if they want to be Hatchets anymore, and that breaks my heart. And I know they're not the only ones, and that should break yours. Thanks for your time. Are you okay if I hand these out?
Sure.
I thought we couldn't answer questions during public comment. That's what you told us last time. Okay, so I can't take your question. I apologize.
No, I was saying,
Oh, okay.
I would like one.
Yep, I highlighted each of your names so that I was assured that each of you got them. Ron. Sorry, Ron. Okay. I believe this is Terry's. I made one for you too. Shar. Bonnie. David. Lucy. If I wish I had known the order, right? Sherry. and Jeffrey. I'm missing one though. So if you're okay, I will email it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I acknowledge I've received this.
Yeah, that's fine.
I acknowledge.
So there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else for public comment tonight?
So my daughter Bailey Hoban
Please,
also.
excuse me, please introduce yourself.
My name is Jody Hoban. My daughter Bailey Hoban also goes to the Tomahawk School District, is not sure if she wants to return in fall. She also did leave the school for half a day on one afternoon to go protest with the rest of the kids. She left the school after finding out about one of the teachers who I believe is no longer with the district, posting comments about the kids who were protesting in the school and wearing their masks that said, "My body, my choice." And for her, she was going through a really hard time. But I think that the school district did not handle the truancy or the excused absences correctly. Not only did the school violate statute Wisconsin 118.15 and 118.16, but the district administrator, Terry Reynolds, also violated statutes in regards to that, and so did the Tomahawk School Board. You guys are basically all in violation of the laws of this state. And I think that the school board needs to address these issues, and I think what they should do is take the truancies for these kids, because it was not handled properly, and they should get them removed from the kids' school records, whoever did not follow by state law, and they should also contact the City of Tomahawk Police Department and attorney to have those charges dropped. In addition, those kids were doing their First Amendment rights to speak out against the masks. And I think it's wrong that these kids are being punished when you want them to follow the law, but the school board, the school, and the staff is not following the law. I would really hope that the school board would take it under advisement to strongly consider that, because the next suit is going to be a lawsuit from a civil rights attorney. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Thank you all for your comments tonight. We're going to move on to item 7, the consent agenda, which is in your packet, and this includes minutes from the regular and closed session board meetings on June 8th, replacement staff that you have attached, and the resignations. Looking for a recommendation to approve the consent agenda items A through C2.
I so move.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Hughesby, seconded by Blue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to item 8, update to the policies. We have 3 policies on here. There were 2 that came back from the last meeting that we talked about. We've got the student privacy and parent access to information, the gifts, grants, and bequests, and the public request suggestions or complaints. You had some explanation on there. There was some clerical error on those.
I can
If you want to go
I
ahead,
can
Terry.
explain it.
Okay.
You know, basically, when you asked me to look into 7230 and 9130, what could be added or the wording, when I went back to Neola and talked to them, we became aware that there was a mistake on 2416 that when the statement about the curriculum being reviewed was taken out, it was supposed to have been, according to them, added in the bottom of the policy. It was just removed from the middle portion that was part of that, and they said it was supposed to end up being moved at the bottom of the policy, so it's just a movement of it. So when I found that out, basically that's the reason I'm bringing you back 2416 so you can approve that policy with that correction in that policy. So then, in policy 7230, or 9130, that statement doesn't need to be added to that policy because it's already in 2416. It was never removed permanently on that. And then on 7230, the question was asked about the board and the school districts, and what they indicated is that the board and the school districts are the same entity, that it didn't need to be changed. So, like I said, I recommend approving all three of those policies as written at this time.
Terry, I want to say thank you for adding that back in. And checking
Pardon?
that. I wanted to say thank you for making sure that got added back in. I appreciate that. I
No.
think that
Yeah.
will go a long way.
Well, I'm glad. It was an easy fix because, like I said, it was just a clerical error at that point.
Okay. I do have a question, and I apologize. I'm back on 9130 for the public request. I'm under the guidelines for matters regarding instructional materials. At the end of the first paragraph, it refers to C policy 2414. And my question is, should that not be 2416?
Do you know?
Or perhaps both 2414 and 2416? I believe 2414 goes back to the policy that relates to human development and that curriculum.
You're saying 9130?
9130, public requests, suggestions or complaints. Under this section, identified as guidelines for matters regarding instructional materials. End of the first paragraph says, see policy 2414.
Oh, okay.
And I
here it is.
believe that you
Oh,
should be
policy-
referring back to 2416.
2414 refers to the human growth and development.
Correct. But this policy is regarding instructional materials, which ties back to what you just added back into 2416. Does that make?
Does make sense.
Um,
I think it's just a cross-referencing,
Here's,
cross-referencing
this is the
error
old one we
or,
had before.
perhaps just a gap there.
That's that policy. And then it's on the next page too. Student policy. Other thoughts on this from anybody else?
I agree. I'd like to see what Neola would have to say about that, if it's just an error on their end again, where it's not.
I think, from what I remember, and again, Shar, I think, it'd be very helpful if you ask these questions prior to the meeting so I can
Okay.
check into it before the meeting.
I do have
Because
just-
taking time like this, like I said, I haven't reviewed the policy for a while
It is,
at this point.
actually, it's 2416 in the update, so.
Is it?
Dave?
It's, the three choices are the 2416 and then the AG 9130A and the F3 form, so ours would be the 2416.
Okay.
Okay, and there was a 2414 that I referred to also in the old one, so that one's being dropped.
Where's the other one? This is
Um,
the under
this-
guidelines for matters.
Okay, I'm looking at
9130.
9130. She's
Yep, that's the
requesting,
one I'm on.
and this is the one that we looked at a while ago.
And then I just have a question in regards to point F where it indicates under that same section, that guidelines for materials regarding instructional materials. Point F says the material in question may not be temporarily withdrawn from use pending final resolution of the matter. My question is if anyone is feeling, especially if a administrator or a principal is feeling that there may be a question, why would we want to put that limit on, to not be allowed to temporarily stop using that?
Because I think it's best not to be withdrawn until it's indicated that it's not supposed to be in. I mean, I don't think you would want to do that. Because anytime anybody could just bring something up and it
So
all
this
of a
is-
sudden have to be withdrawn.
Yeah, and this seems to be further down through the process. You know, this is after the committee level, where they're referring it to the district administrator. You know, this isn't just the teacher or, you know, someone along those lines, it's further into the process. And I'm
Mhm.
just asking why we would not want that option to be available.
Again, I don't think it'd be good practice to withdraw the material until there's a decision made.
It should be investigated as to what the issue is.
That's all they're saying, is that until the matter is settled, it shouldn't be withdrawn.
So then would normal.
Or it shouldn't be expected to be withdrawn.
Okay, so then would normal practice be, you know, if there was a particular family that had a problem with a piece of curriculum, to try to find another avenue of achieving the same objectives in that lesson?
Yeah, I mean, there usually, if there's an objection to that those students can be assigned different
Okay, I just
assignments or whatever
clarified,
it is.
just making sure that we're
Yeah.
understanding practice versus what we have outlined here.
So Colleen, you think that's supposed to be 2416?
Yep.
Okay. So we could, you know, just when you approve this, we'll just amend that to 2416 and correct that.
Sounds good.
Any other questions or concerns with the policies presented? Then with that change of confirming the 2416, looking for a motion, and 2416 being added to policy 9130?
9130, yeah.
Okay. Looking for a motion to approve these three policies
With that update.
with the update?
I so move to approve the policies with the update of 2416 to replace 2414.
Okay, is there a second?
I
I'll
second it.
Oh, there's a tie.
That's okay.
Okay, Jeffrey. We'll go
You
Jeffrey.
can have it, Jeffrey.
Ron, and then Jeffrey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to item, I lost track of my agenda.
Library.
9, for the library report. Paula, you're up.
Have to use my technology because it's not screen. You get the report ahead of you, ahead of time. A lot of active links on it. I don't want to bore you here, so, you know, if you're bored and want to go to sleep some night, read through it, click on the links and it'll put you there. I just had asked Terry if I could present just a little bit, just so that you get to know what a librarian does. I don't sit behind the desk and just check out books and shelf books. In fact, I probably shelved 100 books all school year. That's what my paras do. If you saw my circulation stats in the elementary school alone, we had 18,741 circulations. So like I said, I probably shelved 100 of those. So my paraprofessional was pretty busy. On slide 3, there were a couple yellowed boxes. Those were my goals. So like when I was preparing my report, those were my indications, like that's where I need to work. The high school probably, I would say, is my weakest spot, just because by the time kids hit high school, the LMC isn't a place to go for library lessons and to get books anymore. It's just a place to kind of relax, socialize, hang out. I brought in board games and puzzles and cribbage, and that's what they did for their resource time. So most of the time it's checking out Chromebooks. So our collection is pretty outdated, 34%. It was weeded right before they moved it from down there to the new place. But after pulling stats this year, I realized I have a lot of work to do yet, just to get better material in there. I did add a couple slides after tonight, so I just want to talk about those things that were not in the report. About all the books, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's for enrichment. So quite often we just hit the norm. Battle of the Books is for enrichment. At the elementary level, 4th and 5th graders are allowed to do Battle of the Books. I had 49 students and 11 teams. So I met with them during their what I need time or win time, and we read books, discussed them, practiced them. They form a team, and then they have to read 20 books collectively, decide who's going to do it, and then it's quiz bowl style against the other kids in the state. At the middle school level, unfortunately, I was only able to get one team. They dropped off this year. The kids were stressed with the cohort A and B. It's supposed to be fun. So we'll see what next year brings. Last year I had 6 teams, so. And then at the, something that the previous librarian did is she introduced junior battle books. And she did it for 1st through 3rd graders, and I limited it to 2nd and 3rd graders so that I could choose more appropriate materials. And so this year our theme was perseverance, and I collaborated with the public library, and we had 70 some picture books between their collection and ours on the theme of perseverance, and then the kids could choose a book to read and then do a project on it. And I had 25 2nd and 3rd graders who gave up their time and did those, completed the projects. I had 49 started out, and in the end about half completed it, but again, that's student choice, and that was something I forgot to mention in the packet. In addition, added to my plate this year was I was a Seesaw administrator, and initiated all the trainings for the elementary staff to get them on board to communicate with parents, because last March we realized we had a huge gap. Every teacher was just trying to figure out what to use to communicate. We didn't have a one-fit model like we did in middle school and high school. And that was hugely successful. I know Mr. Steckbauer has talked about it. And then from all the coursework I've been taking, a lot of the information I've been learning is survey your people. And so that's why I conducted a 5th grade library survey, because 5th grade seems to be when they start to venture away from the books. So I really wanted to know their feedback, what I could do better in the library, and what their thoughts were. Because last year I didn't have that opportunity to do it with coming in new and then going home. So I wanted to really know what their thoughts were about library. And then finally, with the change in the schedules, I had changed library lessons 3 different times in elementary. And when we finally went back to Fridays, I said I'm not changing schedules again. So that's when I did enrichment Fridays and did more of what we call the maker space. So I went to the gifted and talented teacher and classroom teachers of 4th and 5th grade students, and I said, give me some of your kids that are always looking for a challenge. They may not be your best academically, but just have some skills and some challenges. So 11 4th graders, 10 5th graders, and their task was to create a treehouse. And it was just really, the excitement was just really cool. And the projects were, like they could be the next treehouse builders on HGTV. I could have lived in some of those in real life. I feel like I'm in.
Toilet paper rolls?
Structurally, I don't know how long we would have held out, but you know, they look cute. And I guess probably the biggest change for a librarian in pandemic is with the virtual schooling. I helped a lot of parents from home, or like when classrooms were quarantined and they needed tech support, they called me. And so then I was the one, okay, try this, and just a lot of getting devices in people's hands when things were not going very well. And I guess my personal goal this year is because of the grant that I received from eSports and working with the Wisconsin library system in Madison. They were impressed with, I guess, the drive and the project that I did, that they had asked me to run for a seat on their board as a K-12 rep, and I was elected in May. So There's no one else running, but you know. It'll look good on my resume or something. So yeah, just, there's links there, like, I don't wanna bore you, but I just wanna point out a couple of those, cool things that maybe you didn't know what a librarian does. And I just, genreification of fiction at the middle school and elementary. So genreification is like, historical fiction, sports fiction, realistic fiction, mysteries. The kids will say, well, where are the mysteries? Well, they're all over. So what we're gonna do is I've worked with Follett to get my whole collection analyzed, and then this fall we will color code the barcodes with the overlay so that the kids know that, hey, the blue is gonna be a mystery book. Because the whole point of a library is for the kids to have access to books and helping them find it. So yes, I want them to know Dewey Decimal, but in real life, if they know that they like historical fiction, then okay, there's gonna be a color-coded chart. I know the ones with the green labels and are gonna be historical fiction, and then that leaves out a lot of books for them to look through. And the high school did that when I took this position, and now I felt like I was ready to tackle it at the middle school and elementary. So that's our goal for next year, is to help the kids find books easier at the elementary and middle school levels. So it's gonna take us a while, because there's a lot of books to label, but I think it'll be a good step for kids. So, that's it. I don't wanna bore you.
No,
That's
you
very
don't.
good, thank you.
I think it's a great PowerPoint.
Yes.
The makers, did that move from middle school down to elementary? Because
What's that?
did the maker, is it makers or markers?
It's called a makerspace.
But did that start in the middle school? Is that where it started?
It's just a library trend in every
Okay.
library. They want them going. It's just hard when I'm one person.
Yeah.
And then trying to fit like all the schedules with middle school. Like I was able to start it my first year in middle school. We did some coding and robotics
That's what I thought,
with
okay.
6th grade and 7th grade. We started that in like February and March, and then bam. And the wheels fell off the bus. And then with the cohort A and B, it was just, we could just never, I couldn't get everything to work this year, just.
No, that's great that you moved it down, because I thought it was just, initially it came in as a middle school thing. I
No,
thought
it's
it was okay.
K-12, I mean,
Okay.
my makerspace, I guess, at the high school level is my esports club.
And that was great. I liked your information on there. You did a lot of work on that. Yes.
So,
It's awesome.
it was rewarding. Like, there were nights, after 4 nights a week of being here till 5:30, I was like, ugh. But if anybody could have been there to see the enthusiasm and just
Mhm.
the passion, and it's pretty cool.
So tell me the logo, who created the logo?
The kids.
That's pretty creative.
Yep, that was all them. They had that ready at the first meeting.
They knew what they wanted, huh?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Any questions of Paula?
I don't have a question, but I'm just impressed with your enthusiasm. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking, you know, sometimes we have a stereotype of a librarian. You don't fit that stereotype that I grew up with.
I warned Terry of that when he hired me. I go, if you want what you had, I'm not your person.
No,
You
no,
should
I
find
just,
somebody else."
I'm just envisioning the kids really connecting with you. I'm very impressed with your presentation and your whole demeanor.
Well, thank you.
I
I
like
love my job. So.
That's great. That's great to hear.
It shows, Paula.
Yep, thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 10, board referrals. Any thoughts? Are you ready to move on in fall and do some more board retreats? Think about it. Let me know. But just a heads up, you will be having more board retreats, I think. How's that?
Do we have a choice? No.
Yeah. I think we've got a bit of work ahead of us. Okay. If there's no other comments, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.